And in this broadcast, this Periscope video, I am going to talk with you about the topic of, does the gluten-free, dairy-free, or otherwise sometimes known as the gluten-free, casein-free diet work for kids with autism? Now, before I get started, I want to say welcome, and if you like this presentation as you're going along and you want to tap and give me hearts, or if you want to swipe and share this presentation with your Twitter or your Periscope following, or whoever you want to share it with, feel free to share it. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue on with this presentation, if you will, and talk with you a little bit about this topic. And so I want to start by giving you a little bit of an introduction to myself, as well as giving you a little bit of a disclaimer, if you will. And the first thing that I want to point out, and let me start with the disclaimer, is that when I say, does any particular diet work for kids with autism, it does not mean that that diet will actually cure them of their autism. Rather, what it means is that it will help them have improved health, and it will lessen their symptoms, make it easier for them to focus and concentrate, do better in school, and obviously it varies from child to child. So that's the, disclaimer that I want to put on this. So now let me just introduce myself. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there about nutrition and healthy eating? I know I sure have. And the conflicting information that is out there, especially when it comes to different diets for kids with autism, is really astounding. Let's face it, the GFCF diet, or gluten-free, casein-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, whichever name you prefer to call it, is definitely the most popular, but there are other diets out there that are sometimes touted as being able to help these children. And, it can get really confusing as a mom or a parent trying to figure out which one is best for your child, or really if you should just avoid all the diets altogether and just feed your child some nice, good, healthy, clean eating, unprocessed, avoid the refined sugars, that kind of thing. So what I do is, as a health coach, I work with women and children who are struggling with allergies, autoimmune conditions, asthma, digestive issues, and autism. I help them learn how to be happier and healthier without the side effects of drugs with simple, fun, delicious recipes, customized diets, and meal plans. I fill in the gaps with the right supplements and help manage common everyday health issues with essential oils so that they can be healthier, have more energy, sleep better, and keep their sanity. And so, if that's something that appeals to you, I'd like to stop for a minute now and say I'd like to invite you to go to my website and request a free wellness consultation so that we can have a chat. And the URL for that is askannalaura at askannalaura.com. It's askannalaura.com. And I'll repeat that again and put it up on a piece of paper for you to see before the end of the presentation. But for now, let's get started with this topic that I was going to bring about, is the gluten-free, dairy-free diet helpful for kids with autism? Now, there have been several studies that have come out and said that they are, as well as some that claim that they aren't. And one study in particular that I thought was really interesting is I had somebody that I connected with on board LinkedIn who has studied and researched different treatment plans, diets, things for autism for over 30 years. And this particular man actually does come from a medical background. So, he comes from having that experience in medicine and science. And he sent me this whole compilation that had been done at the University of Arizona, or I'm not sure if it was actually at the University of Arizona, but it's connected to them, that talks about different options for treatment and diets for kids with autism and the different results that they received. And one thing that I thought was interesting is it says in the research that what they did is they took about 7,000 children or so, it looks like, maybe even a few less or more approximately. And what they did is they completely avoided gluten for 3 months and milk products or dairy products for 1 month. And then they took note of how that diet helped the digestive system, the allergies, things like that for that child, as well as, some of their autistic behaviors. And it said that it was helpful for 69% of the kids. And I've read some other books that have come out and have written about a lot of them on my blog, actually, at annalaurabrown.com. So you can go there and read my blog. There's a search feature, so you can search. And so there's things like, there's a book called The Autism and ADHD Diet. There's one called Healing the 4A Disorders, which are allergies, asthma, ADD, ADHD, and autism, that talks all about this diet as well. And then I know recently there was a big uproar with an article that I know was at least reprinted in the Huffington Post and has been printed and circulated in several places, trying to claim that this diet really doesn't help kids. Well, the reality is, if I can put my 2 cents out there, partly I have to say, trained as a certified health coach and have studied nutrition a lot, and also have a lot of personal experiences, having been diagnosed on the autism spectrum at the age of 5, and then had a medical professional that my parents put me on that diet for a couple of years when I was younger. And then I went off it. And then now as an adult, I've more or less gone back on it. I'm really strict about gluten. But I also have had some lab tests and other things done that made me think that I may possibly be celiac. So, that gluten and I don't get along at all. I'm not as strict about dairy. I do still occasionally eat yogurt or cheese, and then I will, use some digestive enzymes to help me digest it better. But I do feel like I feel at my very best when I avoid it, or eat maybe just a very small amount. And so I think the whole point of this is to say that I think it depends. Like a lot of the studies that have been done, you can't come right out there and say that every single child with autism or on the autism spectrum is going to have some big miraculous results as a result of following the gluten-free, dairy-free, or GFCF diet. However, I do think in general it is helpful for a lot of kids. So, if you're a parent out there that's wondering whether or not you should do it, I say try it. And I actually wrote a fairly recent blog post on my blog at annalaurabrown.com that talks about the different questions and things that you should ask yourself before deciding whether or not you really want to implement this diet. So if you're on the fence about it, I recommend you go to my blog and find that blog post and read it. But back to this series of studies that were done, and they did some studies about different supplements and all different kinds of treatments and things. And I will be repurposing this video and actually putting it up on YouTube and then embedding it as a blog post. And I will actually include a link to this document below that. But anyway, he tried a lot of things. And one of the reasons that they think that this diet actually does help a lot of kids is the fact that a lot of kids who have autism also have a lot of allergies. And gluten and dairy are really common allergens. And so if you think about it, it makes sense that doing this diet would help kids. The other thing too, and this is part of my theory and reason that I think that sometimes kids get helped by this diet, is that a lot of the food that we are feeding our kids is highly processed and full of chemicals. And, we're not feeding kids 100% organic wheat flour, for example. Instead, we're feeding them highly processed, refined flours, sugars, things like that. And so when you put somebody on a GF or CF, so gluten-free, casein-free diet, this diet by default requires you to avoid a lot of those things. And as a result, the behaviors improve, the digestive system improves, the kids have fewer allergies. So I think some of the kids with autism, it may not necessarily be the fact that they're on this diet that improves their health, but I think it may actually be the fact that they're avoiding the processed and the chemical foods. So anyway, I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about that. So if you have questions about whether or not you think you want to try that diet with your child, or you have decided you do want to try it, but you are struggling with it, or you want some help with implementation again, this is where you will go to talk with me, and we can do a free consultation. I can talk with you and, give you my 2 cents about whether or not I think this diet might work, or if it's something you want to do. So it is right there, as you can probably see, hopefully, at askanalara.com. And, you know, it looks a little backwards to me, but I think sometimes I don't know which way to turn it so that you'll be able to see it. But anyway, hopefully that's it. So anyway, and so hopefully you've at least found this helpful. So, you know, things to keep in mind, again, just to summarize this up, there's not a guarantee that it will work for your child. However, there is substantial evidence that, especially if your child's having a lot of allergies and digestive issues or skin issues, that it is worth at least giving it a try. And, you know, if it doesn't work or you don't get the results you had hoped for, then you don't have to stick with it forever. So anyway, take care, have a great day, and I will talk with you later.